Well, a very good morning to all. And today we are starting with a new chapter from your text snapshots. The first chapter titled Summer of the Beautiful White Horse by William Sarayo. Alright? Now, in this chapter, we will learn about two young boys named Aram and Morad and their adventure with, as the title suggests, with a beautiful white horse. Now, this chapter has more to do about an entire clan who is known for two specific things, all right, which you will know when we are reading the chapter. Now, as we have done the first chapter from the other book, Hornbill, titled Portrait of an Old Lady, in the same way, I'll be reading the entire chapter, translating the story for your better understanding. Once you are done reading with the chapter, once you're done going through this video, please go through the chapter yourself. And as and when any doubts come up, you are free to call me to clear all your doubts. For now, we begin with the chapter Summer of the Beautiful White Horse, William Sarayo. One day, back there in the good old days when I was 9 and the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence, and life was still a delightful and mysterious dream, my cousin Morad, who was considered crazy by everybody who knew him except me, came to my house at 4 in the morning and woke me up, tapping on the window of my room. Aram, he said. I jumped out of bed and looked out of the window. I couldn't believe what I saw. It wasn't morning yet, but it was summer, and with daybreak not many minutes around the corner of the world, it was light enough for me to know I wasn't dreaming. My cousin Morad was sitting on a beautiful white horse. I stuck my head out of the window and rubbed my eyes. Yes, he said in Armenian, it's a horse. You're not dreaming. Make it quick if you want to ride. I knew my cousin Morad enjoyed being alive more than anybody else who had ever fallen into the world by mistake. But this was more than even I could believe. In the first place, my earliest memories have been memories of horses, and my first longings have been longings to ride. This was the wonderful part. In the second place, we were poor. So the chapter begins with Aram introducing us to his cousin Morad. All right. Out of the blue at 4 in the morning, he comes tapping on the window, and when Aram looks out, he is shocked to see his cousin Morad because he was standing there with a beautiful white horse. Now, this shocked Aram in two ways. Right? First, he was happy that in front of his eyes was a beautiful white horse, and he knew he wasn't dreaming. His ever long wish was to ride a horse, and to see one before him, it made him very happy. But in the other place, he was shocked at the fact that his cousin Morad was with a horse, the simple reason being that they were poor. There is no way any member of his family could afford to buy such a beautiful looking horse. This was the part that wouldn't permit me to believe what I saw. We were poor. We had no money. Our whole tribe was poverty stricken. Every branch of the Gharoglanian family was living in the most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Nobody could understand where we ever got money enough to keep with food in our bellies. Not even the old men of the family. Most important of all, though, we were famous for our honesty. We had been famous for our honesty for something like 11 centuries. Even when we had been the wealthiest family in what we liked to think was the world, We were proud first, honest next, and after that we believed in right and wrong. None of us would take advantage of anybody in the world, let alone steal. Consequently, even though I could see the horse so magnificent, even though I could smell it so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing so exciting, I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad or with me or with any of the other members of our family, asleep or awake, because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse. And if he couldn't have bought it, he must have stolen it. And I refused to believe he had stolen it. No member of the Gharoklinian family could be a thief. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor in each of them, which on the one hand delighted me and on the other frightened me. Murad, I said, where did you steal this horse? Leap out of the window, he said, if you want to ride. It was true then. He had stolen the horse. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not, as I chose. So, the reason why Aram couldn't believe that his cousin Murad was standing in front of him with a beautiful horse was because he was poor. Alright? And not just poor. They were comically poor. They were ridiculously poor. Even the members of his own family couldn't believe, and other people, let alone other people, all right, they couldn't believe how they were able to put food in their bellies. Now, being poor was one reason, all right, and the other reason was the history behind their family, the Gharoglinian tribe. They were always poor. They had been poor for 11 centuries. But they had one quality about them which was appreciated by everyone else. It was their pride and for their honesty. Like they never cheated anyone. They were full of pride. They were proud of their honesty. All right. They knew that they had never done any wrong, and hence their conscience was clear. So to see Murad standing in front of him with a horse, he thought that Murad had stolen the horse. So he asked him directly, Murad, where did you steal this horse from? And Murad didn't say, like, I didn't steal it, I borrowed it. He just said, come on out. If you want to ride the horse, come out. So now Murad Aram knows that he has stolen the horse, but he doesn't want to believe that anyone in his tribe could ever commit such a heinous crime. Well, it seemed to me stealing a horse for a ride was not the same as stealing something else, such as money. For all I knew, maybe it wasn't stealing at all. If you were crazy about horses the way my cousin Murad and I were, it wasn't stealing. It wouldn't become stealing until we offered to sell the horse, which of course I knew we would never do. Let me put on some clothes, I said. All right, he said, but hurry. I leaped into my clothes. I jumped down to the yard from the window and leaped up onto the horse behind my cousin Murad. That year we lived at the edge of town on Walnut Avenue. Behind our house was the country, vineyards, orchards, irrigation ditches, and country roads. In less than 3 minutes we were on Olive Avenue, and then the horse began to trot. The air was new and lovely to breathe. The feel of the horse running was wonderful. My cousin Murad, who was considered one of the craziest members in our family, began to sing. I mean, he began to roar. So, he is thinking the right things, all right? Aram is thinking all the right things. That he has stolen the horse. We are from the Gharoglinian family. We never steal, we never lie. But in all of this, he is but a child. And so his longing, all right, his wish to ride a horse is stronger than his common sense differentiating between right and wrong. So he tries to justify Murad's action. He says, well, if we are only taking the horse for riding, it is not stealing. As long as we are not selling the horse in exchange for money, it does not account to stealing. So, according to Aram, if they are not selling the horse for money, it is not stealing, it is merely borrowing. And so he changed his clothes, leapt on the horse behind Murad, and Murad began to ride the horse, and the horse began to slowly build up speed. It began to trot. And in all of this, Aram says, my cousin Murad, who was considered the crazy one in the family, he began to sing. Not only sing, he began to wail. He began to roar. And now we will know why Murad is considered the crazy one in the family. What are the circumstances that led to it? Every family has a crazy streak in it somewhere, and my cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of the crazy streak in our tribe. Before him was our uncle Khosrow, an enormous man with a powerful head of black hair and the largest mustache in the San Joaquin Valley. A man so furious in temper, so irritable, so impatient that he stopped anyone from talking by roaring, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." So he says that Murad is considered the crazy one in the family, right? Every family has a crazy member, and Murad is the direct descendant of his uncle named Uncle Khosrow. Now he was an enormous man, this Uncle Khosrow. He had a head full of black hair, a large mustache, and he was considered crazy because no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the other person is saying to him, his response would be simply to shout and say the words, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." That was all. No matter what anybody happened to be talking about. Once it was his own son Arak running 8 blocks to the barber shop where his father was having his mustache trimmed to tell him their house was on fire. The man Khosrow sat up in the chair and roared, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." The barber said, "But the boy says your house is on fire." So Khosrow roared, "Enough, it is no harm, I say." So much so was his life dominated with the lines, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it," that one day he was having his beard trimmed at the barber. His own son Arak came running 8 blocks to tell his father, "Father, look, our house is on fire." But his response was just to get up in the chair and shout, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." Even the barber was amazed. He said, "What are you talking about? This is such a big emergency. Your son is telling you that your house is on fire." And yet Uncle Khosrow was like, "I told you already, it is no harm, pay no attention to it." That is why he was considered the crazy one. My cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of this man, although Murad's father was Zorab, who was practical and nothing else. That's how it was in our tribe. A man could be the father of his son's flesh, but that did not mean he was also the father of his spirit. The distribution of the various kinds of spirit in a tribe had been, from the beginning, capricious and vagrant. So that is why cousin Murad, because of his odd ways, considered to be natural descendant of Uncle Khosrow, even though Murad's own father Zorab was a very practical man, a common man, a normal man. But that is how it is, says Aram in his family. You never know who is gonna take after whom. It is not necessary that the son will take after the father or the father will take after their fathers. It is always a mishmash of characters. Somebody's son can take the characteristics of some other cousin in the family, and that has always been so in their tribe. We rode and my cousin Murad sang. For all anybody knew, we were still in the old country, where at least, according to some of the neighbors, we belonged. We let the horse run as long as it felt like running. At last, my cousin Murad said, "Get down. I want to ride alone." "Will you let me ride alone?" I asked. "That is up to the horse," my cousin said. "Get down." "The horse will let me ride it," I said. "We shall see," he said. "Don't forget that I have a way with a horse." "Well," I said, "any way you have with a horse, I have also." "For the sake of your safety," he said. "Let us hope so. Get down." "All right," I said. "But remember, you have got to let me try to ride alone." I got down, and my cousin Mawad kicked his heels into the horse and shouted, "Wazir, run!" The horse stood on its hind legs, snorted, and burst into a furious speed that was the loveliest thing I had ever seen. My cousin Mawad raced the horse across a field of dry grass to an irrigation ditch, crossed the ditch on the horse, and 5 minutes later returned dripping wet. The sun was coming up. "Now it's my turn to ride," I said. My cousin Murad got off the horse. "Ride," he said. I leaped on the back of the horse and for a moment knew the most awful fear imaginable. The horse did not move. "Kick into his muscles," my cousin Murad said. "What are you waiting for? You've got to take him back before everybody in the world is up and about." I kicked into the muscles of the horse. Once again it reared and snorted. Then it began to run. I didn't know what to do. Instead of running across the field to the irrigation ditch, the horse ran down the road to the vineyard of Dikram Halabian, where it began to leap over vines. The horse leapt over 7 vines before I fell. Then it continued running. My cousin Murad came running down the road. "I'm not worried about you," he shouted. "You've got to get that horse. You go this way, and I'll go this way. If we come upon him, be kindly. I will be near." I continued down the road, and my cousin Murad went across the field towards the irrigation ditch. It took him half an hour to find the horse and bring him back. "All right," he said. "Jump on. The whole world is awake now." "What will we do?" I said. "Well," he said, "we'll either take him back or hide him until tomorrow morning." He didn't sound worried, and I knew he would hide him and not take him back. Not for a while, at any rate. "Where will we hide him?" I said. "I know a place," he said. "How long ago did you steal this horse?" I said. It suddenly dawned on me that he had been taking these early morning rides for some time, and had come to me this morning only because he knew how much I longed to ride. "Who said anything about stealing a horse?" he said. "Anyhow," I said, "how long did you begin riding this morning?" So, after a comparison about Murad and his cousin Uncle Khosrow, they started riding the horse. They reached the open place where Murad asked Aram to get off the horse. He said that, "I want to ride the horse alone." Now Aram also wanted to ride the horse alone, so he said, "Well, I'll get off, but then you have to promise me that you'll let me ride the horse alone as well." And Murad told him that, "Fine, if you can, all right, because I have a way with a horse. I have an understanding with this horse. I don't know whether you have that understanding at all. So I will let you ride the horse, but then it is up to you and the horse whether the horse will allow you to ride it." So Aram got off the horse, and Murad rode the horse through an irrigation ditch, sped all the way, and came back dripping wet. And now Aram wanted to ride the horse. And when his turn came, the horse did not behave in the same way it had done with Murad. He did not take the normal route but ran down the road, jumping over vineyards. And when he jumped over the 7 vineyards, he dropped Aram on the floor, on the ground, sorry, and then he kept running. And Murad came running, and he said, "I do not worry about you. I'm not concerned about you. I'm concerned about the horse. We need to get that back." And after almost half an hour, Morad was able to get the horse back. And he said, "Well, I can't return the horse today. We got to hide him." And he wasn't worried at all, which made Aram believe that this is not the first day. First of all, Morad is very comfortable with this horse and he's not worried about returning the horse as well, which shows that he has been keeping the horse with him for quite some time. So Aram confronted Morad and he said, "Morad, tell me, how long has it been since you have stolen this horse?" And Morad says, "Whoever said anything about stealing?" And he was also sure, Aram was also sure that Morad would not return the horse right now. He would not be returning it. And so both the boys are now going to hide the horse. Where? Aram doesn't know. Alright, because this is the first time he has seen the horse. And he was very, Morad seemed very confident and he said, "I know a place." Alright, "I know a place." And so he said, "What about?" Morad denied that he had stolen the horse, and Aram asked him a different question. "Fine, you have not stolen the horse. So tell me, how long has it been since you began riding every morning?" "Not until this morning," he said. Are you telling me the truth?" I said. "Of course not," he said. "But if we are found out, that's what you are to say. I don't want both of us to be liars. All you know is that we started riding this morning." "All right," I said. He walked the horse quietly to the barn of a deserted vineyard, which at one time had been the pride of a farmer named Fedvajian. There were some oats and dry alfalfa in the barn. We began walking home. "It wasn't easy," he said, "to get the horse to behave so nicely. At first, it wanted to run wild. But as I have told you, I have a way with a horse. I can get it to do I can get it to want to do anything I want it to do. Horses understand me." "How do you do it?" I said. "I have an understanding with a horse," he said. "Yes, but what sort of an understanding?" I said. "A simple and honest one," he said. "Well," I said, "I wish I knew how to reach an understanding like that with a horse." "You're still a small boy," he said. "When you get to 13, you'll know how to do it." I went home and ate a hearty breakfast. That afternoon, my uncle Khosrow came to our house for coffee and cigarettes. He sat in the parlor, sipping and smoking and remembering the old country. Then another visitor arrived. A farmer named John Barrow, an Assyrian who out of loneliness had learned to speak Armenian. My mother bought the lonely visitor coffee and tobacco, and he rolled a cigarette and sipped and smoked. And then at last, sighing sadly, he said, "My white horse, which was stolen last month, is still gone. I cannot understand it." My uncle Khosrow became very irritated and shouted, "It's no harm. What is the loss of a horse? Haven't we all lost the homeland? What is this crying over a horse?" "That may be all right for you, a city dweller, to say," John Barrow said. "But what about my surrey? What good is a surrey without a horse?" "Pay no attention to it," my uncle Khosrow said, roared. "I walked 10 miles to get here," John Barrow said. "You have legs," my uncle Khosrow shouted. "My left leg pains me," the farmer said. "Pay no attention to it," my uncle Khosrow roared. "That horse cost me $60. I spit on money," my uncle Khosrow said. He got up and stalked out of the horse, slamming the screen door. My mother explained. "He has a gentle heart," she said. "It is simply that he is homesick and such a large man." The farmer went away and I ran over to my cousin Murad's house. So that day they kept the horse in a deserted barn, alright, deserted barn where Murad already had some food for the horse, which shows that he had been keeping the horse for some time. And while they were coming back, Murad told him, Aram, all right, that the horse was not always this gentle. It wanted to run wild. But I have a way with horses, he says again. I took it under my responsibility to teach the horse how to be gentle, and I have succeeded. And Aram is the proof of that. He saw how the horse did not want Aram to ride him and how Murad was able to ride the horse with ease. And so he says, I wish I had a way with horses. I had a way to understand horses like you do. And Murad says, well, you're just a little boy. When you are 13 years old, you will understand. See, both are 11 and 13-year old, right? Both are children. So you cannot judge them on the wrong that they have done. They are very innocent. For them, they have not done anything wrong. And so that day, Aram was very happy. He got to ride a horse. He came back home and ate a hearty breakfast. And that afternoon, Uncle Khosrow came to visit them. He was having coffee and cigarettes. And on that day, another visitor came to their house, John Barrow. All right, now remember, Uncle Khosrow, Murad, Aram, their families are Armenian. All right. But this farmer who came by, John Barrow, he's an Assyrian, but he was so lonely. He was the only Assyrian, so he learned how to speak Armenian out of loneliness and to get some company. And even he was served coffee and cigarettes. And on that day, John Barrow disclosed the fact that his horse had been stolen. And it had been 1 month since the horse had been stolen. So now we know where Murad got the horse from. The horse actually belonged to this farmer named John Barrow, and Murad had this horse in his possession for a month. So when he said that I am sad because I've lost my horse, you know how Uncle Khosrow is. He just sat up and he roared, pay no attention to it. It is no harm. He said, but I have lost my horse. And Uncle Khosrow said, why are you crying over a horse? We have lost our homeland. We are living in a foreign country. We have lost our homeland and you are crying over a horse. And then the farmer tries to justify his loss, all right? He says, I'm a farmer. I drive a carriage, horse carriage. If I don't have a horse, what use is the carriage to me? How will I travel? And Uncle Khosrow says, well, you have legs. Make use of those. And says, my left leg, it hurts. Again, Uncle Khosrow like, pay no attention to it. It is no harm. And he says, the farmer again tries to justify and he says, but I paid $60 for the horse. Uncle Khosrow became even more irritated. He says, I spit at money. It is no harm, pay no attention to. And he stormed out of the house. And it was at this point of time that Aram's mother came up to the farmer John Barrow and he said, please don't mind him. All right, it's just the fact that he has lost, he misses his homeland and he's a large man. He can't control his temper. And so after that, John Barrow also takes leave. So now Aram knows that the horse actually belongs to John Barrow and that the owner is looking for his horse. So he came running looking for Murad. He was sitting under a peach tree trying to repair the hurt wing of a young robin which could not fly. He was talking to the bird. What is it? He said. The farmer, John Barrow, I said. He visited our house. He wants his horse. You've had it a month. I want you to promise me not to take it back until I learn to ride. It will take you a year to learn to ride, my cousin Murad said. We could keep the horse for a year, I said. My cousin Murad leaped to his feet. What? He roared. Are you inviting a member of the Garoglinian family to steal? This horse must go back to its true owner. When? I said. In 6 months at the latest, he said. He threw the bird into the air. The bird tried hard, almost fell twice, but at last flew away, high and straight. So, naturally, now that the owner is here, the Aram is worried. He goes looking for Murad. He finds Murad sitting under the peach tree, trying to repair a hurt wing of a bird, all right, of a robin. And when Aram reached Murad, he said, what is it? And Aram says, well, the horse that you have, it belongs to John Barrow. He has You have been hiding this horse for a month, and now the owner of the horse is looking for the horse. I want you to promise me that you will not give back the horse until I learn to ride the horse. And Morad was like, but it will take you a year to learn how to ride. And Aram says, fine, keep the horse a year. But Morad, he suddenly gets irritated. He says, what? You want me to keep this horse for a year? It will not be as same as borrowing. It will be stealing. And I am not a thief. I am a member of a Garaglinian family. If I keep the horse for a year, then it will be like stealing. And Aram says, fine then. How long do you plan on keeping it? And Morad says, 6 months. I'll keep the horse 6 months. And when I return it, it will not be the same as. So you can make out from the conversation, all right, that they are very innocent young children. To Morad, he believes that if he keeps the horse for a year, it will be stealing. But if he returns it in 6 months, it will not be stealing. And so, after this conversation, he threw the bird in the air whose wing he was trying to repair, and the bird, after a struggle, was able to fly. So he was successful in repairing the hurt wing of the robin as well. Early every morning for 2 weeks, my cousin Morad and I took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard where we were hiding it and rode it. And every morning the horse, when it was my turn to ride alone, leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw me and ran away. Nevertheless, I hope in time to learn to ride the way my cousin Morad rode. One morning, on the way to Fedvajian's deserted vineyard, we ran into the farmer John Barrow, who was on his way to town. Let me do the talking, my cousin Morad said. I have a way with farmers. Good morning, John Barrow, my cousin Morad said to the farmer. The farmer studied the horse eagerly. So for the next So for the next 2 weeks, Aram and Morad were enjoying their daily rides. Every morning they would ride the horse. Every morning Aram would be unsuccessful in riding the horse, and the horse would throw it off its back. And in this way 2 weeks passed. One day while they were coming back and taking the horse back to the vineyard, they came face to face with the owner, John Barrow, the owner of the horse. And Marat told Aram, you keep quiet. All right, you will not say a single thing. I will talk to John Barrow. I have a way with farmers, he said. Just like he said, I have a way with horses, I have a way with birds, I have a way with farmers. So he starts talking. He said, good morning, John Barrow. And John Barrow looks at the horse very eagerly because he knows his horse. He knows the horse that he had lost. He said, good morning, son of my friends, he said. What is the name of your horse? My heart, my cousin Mawad said in Armenian. A lovely name, John Barrow said, for a lovely horse. I could swear it is the horse that was stolen from me many weeks ago. May I look into its mouth? Of course, Morat said. The farmer looked into the mouth of the horse. Toot for toot, he said. I would swear that it is my horse if I didn't know your parents. The fame of your family for honesty is well known to me. Yet, the horse is the twin of my horse. A suspicious man would believe his eyes instead of his heart. Good day, my young friends. Good day, my John Barrow, my cousin Morat said. Early the following morning, we took the horse to John Barrow's vineyard and put it in the barn. The dogs followed us around without making a sound. The dogs, I whispered to my cousin Morat. I thought they would bark. They would at somebody else, he said. I have a way with dogs. And so, as they were having a conversation with John Barrow said, what a beautiful looking horse. What is his name? And Morat, without any hesitation, says, so John Barrow saw the horse, all right? He even checked inside his mouth. He knows that it is his horse. And yet he refuses to believe that it is his horse because that horse is being led by Aram and Morad, members of the Gharolian family who for centuries are known for being proud and for being honest. John Barrow refuses to believe that it is his horse because of their family name, all right? And so he says, all right, goodbye, see you, my friends. And now they have no other option. Aram and Murad, they quietly return the horse to John Barrow's barn. And inside the barn there were dogs. And the dogs did not bark at all. And Aram was surprised. He said, I thought these dogs would bark. And Murad says, well, I have a way with dogs as well. If any other individual would be here, the dogs would bark. But not at me. Because I have a way with dogs. And then they left the horse at John Barrow's barn. That afternoon, John Barrow came to our house in his surrey and showed my mother the horse that had been stolen and returned. I do not know what to think, he said. My horse is stronger than ever, better tempered too. Thank God. My Uncle Khosrow, who was in the parlor, became irritated and shouted, quiet, man, quiet. Your horse has been returned. Pay no attention to it. So that afternoon, John Barrow came to visit Aram's mother in his surrey. Right now, he has his horse, so he can ride his carriage. So he came and he talked to us. He said, look at this. This is the horse that was stolen from me, and it has returned. Not only has it returned, it has become stronger and better tempered. So Morad had done a good job with the horse. I thank God, he says. And Uncle Khosrow, who was there inside the house, he came out shouting, quiet, man, quiet. Your horse has been returned. That is the main thing. Pay no attention to it. And this brings the end of the first chapter, a chapter on two young boys, Aram and Morad's adventure with a borrowed white horse. All right, not stolen, because young boys, they believe that they have only borrowed and have committed no wrong. So now with this, what I want you guys to do is go through the text yourselves. Find the difficult words, underline it, find the meanings as well. And beyond that, if you require any help from my end, please let me know. All right, you can call or message me, and I'll be more than glad to help you with any difficulties that may arise while you are going through the text. All right, so until the next class, please stay home and stay safe.